Alrighty, everybody, it is promptly the turn of the hour. I've been, like, my eyes were glued to the clock at the bottom right-hand corner of my screen. I was just ready to press record. So we are now at that time that, yay, we get to spend another, hopefully it'll be limited to 75 minutes for your sake together, but I am going to do whatever it takes today in order to accomplish our goal. We'll talk about that in just a second. Hope everybody's had a fantastic week thus far. I hope everybody is thrilled that there's only one day left. And if you're lucky, and in which case I envy you, maybe you have the day off tomorrow. So we don't want to hear from you people. Anyhow, all jokes aside, here are my pearls of wisdom for today. It's in the doing, not just the thinking, that we accomplish our goals. So I know what we will do today. So speaking of which, let's take a look at some announcements, which is also going to segue into, of course, our goals. Okay, so here are some announcements for us. Tomorrow is going to be a skills lab tutorial. I have just like recently kind of renamed it, but it remains the same, which you see on your course syllabus, how to break down the exam questions. I'm going to be trying out a couple of new things on you, if you don't mind, because I'm going to be hosting a workshop as well to the public later this month. So thank you in advance. I hope you are able to make it tomorrow. It will be at 1 o'clock Eastern time, good 45 minutes. I think I scheduled an hour just to give us a little bit of a cushion, but not to worry if you cannot join. First of all, I'll be honest, you've been getting all these skills all this time because I'm pretty consistent with my message, so long as trusted you like the message. But now I'm just going to basically summarize and bring it all together. As well, if you're not able to make it, you know the drill. I'm going to record it. I'm going to get it loaded up to the Hive for you. If anybody has been kind of contemplating whether or not to take the SHRM exam, and if you think your gut is telling you, yeah, I think I should, or I think I'm going to, time is of the essence. The deadline for applications for this winter, if that is your intention and you'll be ready for it, the deadline is Monday. Okay, so to be a little bit more precise, it's Monday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. I don't suggest you push things to the last moment. Reason being, servers tend to crash, and or if you have questions and you want to call their office, they're not going to be there come, I think past 6 p.m. Eastern time. Oh, that's amazing. Congrats. Yeah, I know a couple of people have actually been sharing with me their good news and their exam appointments. So I'm clapping my hands. I'm excited for you. Nervous for you, but no, very, very excited. And last but not least, today's goal. Again, in it to win it with you. This is quite, I would say, a lot of pages. But truthfully, once we get through comp laws and we do some overtime calculations, i.e. grab a calculator, folks, the rest is benefits, and you know this all too well. And it frightens me, so we're going to just like zoom right through it. Let's see, a comment is coming in. I saw it in passing. I think I did get the email from you. I saw it in the corner of my eye. Oh, no. Oh, that part I did not see. I think I just saw the title. Please do. And if we have a classmate, who's saying, not sure if I should be posting questions. I know you've got a goal. Listen, your thoughts and your questions are always of, I would say, utmost importance. Don't get me wrong. I may need to, in the interest of time, and I'll have to, I guess, make that judgment call. I might need to table my response and maybe kind of put a pin in my answering a question or a thought towards the tail end. But please know, I see everything coming in. I'll definitely acknowledge anything. If I can't give you a super, super fast response, because maybe it warrants a little bit more of a conversation, kind of like maybe what I'm doing now, then I might say, hey, listen, I see it. Thanks so much for your patience. Let's take a look at the end. So if you don't mind, we'll just play it by ear. But I don't want anyone to ever feel deterred because it kind of defeats, the purpose. So yeah, I don't want you to feel that way for sure. And even worst case scenario, we can also, anybody, go through an email thread, and or a private conversation if you feel comfortable, whatever you want. I've had some people in the past say, I prepared a grocery list of thoughts I want to bounce off you, and then we schedule an appointment. So anyhow that you want to approach it. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, let's do this, guys. Flip on over to page 93. Compensation laws and regulations. So remember all the way back, can you even remember to Unit 2? Oh my gosh, we even did that? But think all the way back to Unit 2. What was that, like September? And remember, I had distributed to you guys a Word document of how to, just an idea if you wanted, but to capture all the laws and all the regulations that we were going to study. And I told you that they're not going away. So here come even more that you can add to that table if you are, in fact, building that out. And if you're thinking, oh my gosh, maybe I should be building that out, then please know it's pumped into the Hive. If you can't find it, let me know. I'll be happy to help you. So what I want us to do together in this section, albeit a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Long? No, not lengthy, but enriched with content, is we're going to take a look at the 4 federal compensation laws. Some of them are dated, and, well, one in particular is very, very current and, well, in our face and part of our reality. Please pull out your calculators. Please put on your mathematical thinking hat. We're going to be taking a look at overtime. We're going to also be bringing in some definitions to understand what is overtime, as well as what does FLSA want us to do in terms of bonus pay, and how do we define that as well. So we're going to have some fun. For anybody who had joined or watched the archive of the math tutorial, you got an insight into this. So hopefully this will just be your second exposure and reassurance. Alrighty, first things first, per page 93, let's talk about the Davis-Bacon Act. Now this act is otherwise known as the Prevailing Wage Law. Just going to stop for a second. May I ask, let's just play word association. Or for those of you that are very gifted and basically are walking thesauruses or thesauruses, which clearly I am not, let me just pick your brains. What does the word prevailing mean? I just want to make something come full circle. So off the top of your head, prevailing, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Takes precedence? Yeah, okay. The first thing that comes to my mind, truthfully I had to research it though, is like the going pattern or the going rate or the going phenomenon, kind of like the norm. Okay, prevalent, to achieve. Okay. The reason why I'm doing this is because, like I said, I want to make this buzzword. And why is this called what it is? Come on, there's got to be reasoning behind the madness. I want it to come full circle. For me, when I was really trying to immerse into this act and not commit to memory if I could avoid it by, every means possible, I had to break everything down and be like, whoa, why is it called prevailing? I'll be honest, I was a little bit tongue-tied. What does prevailing mean? So I wanted to give you guys the same kind of thought process. So this act basically is saying that organizations with federal contracts, whoa, stop the school bus. We're not talking to any organization other than those with federal contracts. That might limit as well the scope. But those companies with these federal contracts need to pay their laborers the prevailing wage. Prevailing wage, there it comes again. The prevailing wage is, in other words, the usual, the fundamental, the principal. Translation, the going rate. So if the going rate is $10 an hour, that's the prevailing wage for that locality. If the going rate is $25 an hour, consider yourself lucky. And that is, again, yes, good rulers, the standard, the going rate, the norm, the usual in that locality. So basically, back to what another classmate said, kind of like, it takes the precedence. It's kind of like the real estate market. So that's what the Davis-Bacon Act says. The idea here is this act is in place to protect the amount of pay that is being received. So it prevents contractors from importing cheap labor from other areas or from auctioning off jobs, perhaps at lower bids. If this is the going rate in this vicinity, and that is a very subjective term, then that's what everybody's going to be paid. You want to bring people in from far and away, they're still going to be subject to it, according to Davis-Bacon law. And this law as well, like all others, says that, yes, overtime is going to kick in at 1.5 times that local rate. Exactly, you were trying to prevent that precisely. Yeah, so we want to try to prevent sweatshops. Okay, Let's take a look at another one, kind of similar but kind of different, towards the bottom of page 93. Here we have the Copeland Act. And to the second paragraph in this really big blurb, anti-kickback law. So let's just do one thing at a time. Let's talk about the Copeland Act. So the Copeland Act says, well, hold on. Let's give the Secretary of Labor a run for their money. And the Secretary of Labor is now going to step in, and they're once again going to be telling organizations of federal contractors what deductions need to be made. So, and this is going back, I mean, we're dated back to, oh gosh, I don't know, the 30s or 40s or even earlier. I could be overcalculating. So under the Copeland Act, contractors had the obligation, again, to apply deductions as we know it today. And they had to demonstrate this through all their financial controls. Well, let's go back to the 30s or so. And a lot of organizations, a lot of employers were saying, whoa, we're all, just kind of dealing with the Great Depression. We're trying to recover. Whoa, 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 whoa. Now I'm paying the government all of these taxes. That's chipping away at my business. And because, I have to pay all these taxes, I'm basically not making a lot of money. Somebody better pay me back. And that's what was happening. Those federal contractors went to us little guys and basically said, because of you, I'm out a lot of money. So you better somehow make it up to me, or you are out of a job. And especially in times of desperation, trying to recover from the Great Depression, some people are doing whatever they needed to do just to have their job. And that's where the anti-kickback law came in place. So where it was, and I'm just being fictitious here, but where the employer was saying, hey, listen, you laborer, you meet me in the back of the alley at 11 o'clock at night, and you better pay me back for some of these taxes. I'm not going to be out of pocket because you are an expense to me. The anti-kickback law, like I said, was put in place actually to prevent this from happening. So laborers, and again, we're talking about laborers of federal contractors, should not have felt coerced or threatened to give back their rightfully earned pay. Okay, let's take a look at a comment that's been waiting for me. Thank you. Does prevailing wage precede benchmarks or pay bands? In this case, the prevailing wage would likely create those benchmarks and then also create those pay bands. Does that make sense? It does in my head. But that's not to mean that it makes sense for most people. Does that sound good, Christina? Okay, perfect. I just heard myself say that, and I'm like, oh no, I'm second guessing myself. And I'm also being asked, so to make employers, so yes, the anti-kickback law was to prevent employers from exactly extorting those employees precisely. No takesy-backsies. It's a cost of doing business. If you can't incur that cost, maybe you shouldn't be doing the business. Let's take a look now. Flip the page with me, please, to the third of 4 laws, the Walsh-Healy Act. This is the Public Contracts Act. There it is, public contracts. Before we had talked, perhaps we assumed about private contracts. So now this is an extension of the first law we talked about, the prevailing wage thing. This is an extension of the Davis-Bacon Act, the prevailing wage law. But now we're extending it to non-construction federal contractors, i.e. public contracts. So this act sets the basic labor standards at minimum wage. So minimum wage is the prevailing wage. And in some cases, it is based on that locality. Think about how minimum wage varies from state to state. What's different here is that the Secretary of Labor has stepped in and said, I'm going to determine what those prevailing wages are. Hence, I'm going to put in place those minimum standards. But this law as well also requires that these federal contractors pay overtime at 1.5 times the base rate, so the hourly wage, for those hours worked in excess of 40 hours. And then last but not least, the oh so popular FLSA. We're going to speak of this as we know it today, not what per se is taking effect come January 1st. Speaking to that, I do suggest, and I'm still in the process of really getting a very high level understanding, But I do suggest, sure, you know, it can't hurt maybe to research, oh, what are the changes taking effect January 1st? But for testing purposes, I've pretty much been told this unofficially, unguaranteedly, that any question one might see on an exam that expects you to be abreast with the new Jan 1 changes likely will not be seen until at least February 1st, or in the case of SHRM, the spring testing window. Again, there's never any guarantees, so really polishing up probably can't hurt. And now I hear myself saying that, I'll send you guys a link for, again, those changes that are taking effect January 1st. However, typically the HRCI exams tend to be updated, revised no earlier than February 1st. And in terms of the SHRM exams, they're pretty much already locked and loaded for this winter testing window. So we won't see that until the spring testing window. Okay, just as an FYI. I think I'm 90% certain. So always allow for that variance. Okay, so to that end, actually, let me just make a note to myself about FLSA for 2020. Okay, thanks. Sorry about that. Here I'm saying we've got a goal. No time to waste, and yet I waste your time. Okay. FLSA, Fair Labor Standards Act, is also known as the Wage and Hour Law. Now, FLSA does a lot of things, and we live by this every single day, every single decision we make, no doubt. It sets our minimum wage standards, overtime standards, child labor restriction standards. All of this is in our text. Defines exempt versus non-exempt. It's a really good read. FYI, if I haven't already mentioned this, or I know I have, but I'm going to say it again. When it comes to, for example, minimum wage, and for that respect, everything and anything for the sake of your exam, no matter which exam you're preparing for, only federal level. So please don't be stressed about, oh no, you know, minimum wage is going to vary from state to state. Nothing to stress about. What we're going to do a little bit more specifically very soon is we're going to take a look at overtime. However, before we do that, I got ahead of myself. I have a question for us. Which law or laws require that employees who work more than 40 hours per week be paid 1.5 times their normal rate of pay for overtime hour? Which law or laws? We've discussed 4. Okay, fantastic. Okay, I think I see that the answers have slowed down. I hope I'm not kind of interrupting anybody's inner monologue. FLSA absolutely does. Oh, let's get a better color pen there. So rewind. FLSA absolutely does. Davis-Bacon absolutely does. Walsh-Healy does. Therefore, all of the above is correct. Oh, I just saw that comment. My bad. So D is correct, and I think we have a consensus. So perfect. No explanation needed, right? Okay. Let's talk about overtime. Let's talk about calculations. Again, warning, grab a calculator, please. I do predict, for what it's worth, I could be wrong. As is, you know, like it's happened once before. No, but I do predict that a professional level test goer will likely see calculations on their exam. Okay, it's not guaranteed, but that is personally what I predict based on recent feedback that I received from test goers, not to mention my experience as well. Okay, when we talk about overtime, we're talking about non-exempt employees. Non-exempt employees are subject, or eligible, I should say, for overtime. When they work in excess of 40 hours per week, they're going to get 1.5 times their regular rate of pay. That's the incentive. Otherwise, somebody might say, I'm exhausted. I really don't want to work that 41st hour. I'm burnt. And since you're not paying me more, I have no reason to push myself. That's the mentality. But here's the thing. What is a week? So let's take a look at some of these key definitions. This is what could make or break. I'll be honest, approaching a question in your exam. I saw this in the SHRM CP exam. The regular work week, i.e. for where we measure more than 40 hours, it consists of 7 consecutive 24-hour periods. So this may count forwards differently from company to company. My company, for example, might start counting 7 consecutive 24-hour periods effective Wednesday morning at 10:41 a.m. Eastern Time. Your company might start counting this effective 6 a.m. Monday morning Pacific Time. Whatever it is, that company has to be consistent. They can't keep changing it week after week or month after month, so that frankly, they can try to kind of dodge paying us overtime. So it's completely at the employer's discretion. Secretary of Labor, Department of Labor, they're all going to come after an organization, like I said, if they're really kind of fudging, you know, how they define regular work week so that they're always dodging paying people. But it is 7 consecutive 24-hour periods. So if, for example, a company is a little bit more of an office setting, like mine is, maybe yours is as well, and you're thinking, you know what, I work Monday to Friday, and if you are non-exempt, that's not 7 consecutive 24-hour periods. It's legit. And if you work, for example, 8 or 9 straight days, the clocks reset 7 consecutive 24-hour periods. So I'm being asked, isn't it a 7-day week and then 40 hours within that week? Not necessarily. It's completely up to that company how they measure it. So yes, actually, sorry, a 7-day week, but starting to count forwards effective when? So it's not necessarily Monday to Friday. Again, it's however that company measures it. And if you're thinking, I don't know how my company measures it, it might be interesting to go to work tomorrow and ask. I think more often than not, and again, it may vary from the industry, but to the best of my knowledge and from my experience, most organizations will start to measure at the stroke of midnight, let's say, Sunday, which are technically Monday, because maybe they measure 7 consecutive 24-hour periods from Monday morning, 12 a.m. through to Sunday, 11:59 p.m. But maybe not necessarily. Okay, so with that understanding, then we know, of course, in excess of these 40 hours, if anybody works, well, in excess, sorry, they will be paid 1.5 times their regular rate of pay. So what is regular rate of pay? Regular rate of pay, this is really key, and we're going to see how this unfolds, sorry, it's been a long day, unfolds into questions next. Regular rate of pay will include that basic hourly rate, so $10, $12, whatever, plus any non-discretionary bonus, a shift differential, key, production bonus, which is more popular and more likely that you will see, if anything, and any commissions earned. So this is key, because when you think you're making $12 an hour, if let's say you get a production bonus for your output, we need to break that down into an hourly bonus earning, and we're going to see that very soon. Okay, questions coming in. Our work week starts on Sunday and ends on Saturday. Oh, okay, so there you go. You've got it. So as long as it's 24 or 7 consecutive 24-hour periods, perfect. So it's a matter of when on Sunday, and then, of course, respectively, I imagine it coincides with when on Saturday. Alrighty, so let's take a look at overtime, and we are as well going to take a look into bonus. If I go too fast, or if you guys have any additional thoughts, questions, comments, please, by all means, we're going to break it down. So forgive me as I'm typing directly into the slide. Here we have an employee who is earning $10 an hour for a 48-hour work week. Stop. What is alarming you? Is there anything so far that we've read that is alarming you? Thank you. 48-hour work week. If you were right now in the exam, what you should do, or so what I suggest you do is just somehow, some way, make a note to yourself. Again, you'll have scrap paper, what have you, to alert yourself, red flag, but in yellow in this case, you have 8 hours of overtime. When your nerves get the better of you, and you're watching the clock, and you hear the person next to you nonstop, I don't know, sneezing, it's easy to forget this and just kind of want to pump out the numbers. Okay, good. This employee as well is earning a $24 weekly production bonus. Another exclamation mark, note to self. And this employee is getting 8 hours of overtime based on the rate that includes the bonus. So the fact that in this scenario, it says 8 hours of overtime pay, you know this. You already identified this. This is duplicated information. We can actually scratch that out. You're one step ahead of this. But what is actually pretty imperative is where it says you're getting overtime based on the rate that includes the production bonus. $10 an hour does not include the production bonus. So let's do it. In order to calculate overtime, no doubt you know this, I'm just thinking out loud here, you need to know how much you're being paid. And we just established that, the employee in this scenario isn't being paid just $10 an hour. This person is also being paid a little bit more based on that $24 production bonus. So that's where we start. Now let me ask you, if you have ever, or if you were earning, let's say, tips, would you calculate your total lump sum of tips into really your total net take home at the end of, let's say, a shift? So let's say you're making $10 an hour, you worked 4 hours at the diner, 40 bucks. But you made, let's say, $160 in tips. You're amazing. You're walking away with $200. So you'd probably be thinking to yourself, sweet, my average is 50 bucks an hour. That's basically the kind of thought process you want to do here. So it all starts with, I see a comment coming in, hold on tight, let me just kind of finish this thought or I'm going to lose it. It all starts with the $24 production bonus. We need to understand really what this is worth on an hourly basis so we can add it to the already established regular hourly rate of $10. So the question now becomes, what is that hourly production bonus earnings? If it took 48 hours to earn an additional $24, what is the hourly earnings just for production bonus? Perfect. Oh, Jessica, I got it. I see it. Interesting. Okay, perfect. So just the production bonus is worth 50 cents an hour. It's up to this employee, you, me, whomever, in this scenario, to determine, well, was it really worth me, busting my hump or not? That's a different conversation for a different time. But it is worth an additional 50 cents an hour. Now, we're being told at the end of the statement, calculate overtime on the rate that includes the bonus. So let's add this. Oopsie, my bad. Let's add this to the rate that we know that the person is, already earning, which is $10 an hour. So $10 an hour plus the 50 cents valued for the production bonus per hour brings this employee's earnings to $10.50 an hour. Everybody okay? Did I go too fast, or are you comfortable with that logic? Yeah? Perfect. So I'm going to go through the question, or this scenario, and I'm going to basically check off the things I don't want to see again so that it doesn't overwhelm me. $10 an hour, done. We've used it. Get rid of it. We don't need to see this again. We dealt with the $24 production bonus. Get rid of it. We don't need to see it again. There's only one element remaining. Let's figure out overtime. Okay, so let's do that. So now, in doing the overtime, you can take your now agreed upon and established $10.50 per hour and multiply it by the 40 straight hours worked. What do you guys get? I'm going to do this along with you. Let me know if you get a different number. Perfect. $428. Just straight time. We haven't done overtime yet. Remember, overtime, the incentive, is 1.5 times the regular rate of pay. Newly established regular rate of pay is $10.50, and we'll multiply it by the 8 agreed upon, overtime hours. Just want to do the format nice. I'm a disaster. 8 overtime hours. So what do you get? $10.50 multiplied by 1.5, that's the incentive. Otherwise, who wants to work 48 hours? And then times 8. Perfect, me too. If anybody gets a different number, needs me to back up, not a problem, please let me know. And now it's just a matter of straight math. So we just add straight time. Oopsie, oh, sorry guys. We add the straight time, 420, plus the overtime, 126. So we can figure out the total pay, and we get 546. That's it. Let's see, comment coming in. The scenario isn't actually asking a question, it more is just telling you the information. Correct. We're inferring a question because it's what's convenient for me. It doesn't specify if we are finding the total pay or overtime pay. Correct. So I just wanted to walk everybody through what you would do, what you would be looking for. So you're correct, or anybody else who's thinking this, in that what you would do is always relative to, of course, the question that it's asking you. So if the question is asking you, what is the overtime pay, it's $126. If the question is asking you, what is total pay, maybe the question is just asking you, what is the hourly rate? So now, I guess, through like all the motions, everybody's equipped to kind of tackle anything. No, you're not. When in doubt, it's not you, it's me. Okay, let's see. I've never heard of a weekly production bonus. Does that really exist? Yeah, it's by definition in the FLSA. So I'm being asked, at the exam, do you have access to a paper and pencil? That is a great question. Possibly. So you will definitely have access, first of all, to a calculator. Let me just start with that. It'll be an app that is built into the computer. So no, you may not bring in a calculator, in case anybody was thinking that. Just kind of like pulling up a calculator on your computer, get into the habit of that. Some people find it a little bit annoying with the clicking and the mouse or the typing. Sorry, that's just the way it is. But in terms of any type of writing platform, some testing facilities, be it Pearson VUE versus Prometric, and as well as certain locations perhaps, maybe some more ancient ones versus some more modern ones, they may have paper and pencil, and they'll supply that to you, and then they confiscate it when you're finished your exam. They may provide you a wipe-away board or a laminated piece of paper, truthfully, with like, you know, a wipe-away marker. So either way, shape, or form, you will be equipped with some sort of like writing platform for you to mind map. I've had both. I have had paper and pencil a couple of times, and I've also been given a laminated sheet and a wipe-away marker. I didn't love it because sometimes I like to make notes and I like to revisit it. Anyhow, it is what it is. You may not bring a cell phone. Absolutely not. They will not allow it. You're not even allowed to wear a watch, especially a digital watch. They're going to basically, sorry, I'm being like funny and animated here. They're going to like strip you basically. Being asked, would you say there is a good amount of math? You could have absolutely zero. I had somebody who took the PHR exam over the weekend, and she said, absolutely no math. Jen, you overstressed me, and I felt really bad. And then I had somebody who sat for the PHR exam 2 weeks ago, and she said she had a 4/5 question and an overtime question. So it's a hard call. SHRM exam, I haven't had anybody weigh in with any feedback of math, although I did personally have a compa ratios question. And no, you may not wear an iWatch or a Google Watch or any type of digital electronic of any sort. Okay, good questions, guys. Alrighty, so I'm going to erase this. Well, it's really just my drawings I'm going to erase. You have the answers. Take your screenshots, please. Take your notes. And let's go forward. Is that okay? Can I erase? Go into once, and to go in twice, and to 3 times. Okay, let's do another one. And then I have more that I'm going to load up to the Hive with the lesson recap. Oh, yay, Jen is evil. Okay. In our last session, we talked about various different types of individual incentives. And we talked about piece rates. Remember Taylor's concept of individual incentive? Well, let's do overtime based on piece rate. Now here's the thing. Remember with piece rate, that worker is going to determine how much they take home. So it's always relative. Here we have, and again, we're just going to infer a question, but we're going to go through all the motions to equip you for any type of question you may or may not see. Here you have a worker who is working 50 hours, okay, note to self, 50 hours, and in that time is producing 100 pieces. Each piece is valued at $4 each. Now, we're not just going to pay out $400. FLSA won't let us. So we do need to calculate the individual's hourly rate and then apply overtime. So there are a couple of different ways to do this. If you don't mind, at the risk of sounding selfish, I'm going to do this the way that my brain is taking me. But as long as the logic is there, and if your brain is taking you a different route, and we arrive at the same answer, you're golden. So if I may, what I'm thinking is, okay, I'm going to figure out how much we owe this person. So if it's $4 a piece times 100 pieces, technically, we should be paying out the worker $400. But of course, it's not a lump sum payout. We need to break it down by the hour. Now, if it took this worker 50 hours to produce these 400 pieces, then I'm going to divide it by 50 hours. In which case, oopsie, just double checking my math and my notes, it's $8 an hour. Let me know if anybody disagrees with what I'm coming up with at any time. And again, if you take a different approach, that's great. We basically just need to arrive at the same place. As long as the logic is there, can't be argued. This was actually the heavy lifting, to be honest with you. And I hope you found that it wasn't that difficult. Should you see a question of this nature, I'll be honest, it's not going to be this straightforward. 50 hours, 100 pieces, $4 a piece. It's going to be more involved. I'm just trying to get to the premise. Just extract the information that you need to work with. But now that I know that this worker basically is valued at $8 an hour, then we can figure out overtime. So, having worked 40 straight hours at $8 an hour once again, it's a payout of $320. At a value of $12 an hour, I hope you see where I'm going with that because that's the overtime going rate. That's a little bit of a trick. You let me know if I went too fast and I kind of pulled the rug from under you. The overtime is valued at $120 an hour. Therefore, the total pay in this case is going to be $440. I think I went fast. Feel kind of bad. Thoughts? Questions? Went a little bit? Okay. 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 So it all comes down to, tell me if you, okay, so actually sorry, I have a couple people saying, wow, you made me dizzy. Fair enough. I make me dizzy too. Do you understand where I got $8 an hour? Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to put that to a side. Good. Do you understand where we got $320 for straight time? Perfect. I'm going to put that to a side. Good. Do you see where I got $12 an hour for overtime? Yeah, okay, fantastic. So when we add straight time, 320, and overtime, 120, that's where we get the 440. Perfect. Okay. Well, as luck would have it, and those of you that like to get an advanced peek of the slides in advance, you know what's coming next. And for anybody who hasn't reviewed the slides, you can guess. Let's test your knowledge. Oh, I'm being asked, how did you get $12? Yeah, absolutely. Let me just pull up my drawing tool. So $12 an hour is basically straight time, $8 an hour, which we established, times another half. So that's the incentive. It's 1.5 times the established regular rate of pay. that good? Yeah, so I just kind of took a shortcut. I wanted to see who I could catch off guard. So good, mission accomplished. I just wanted to clear that up. Perfect, okay. Okay, so what we've got next, please, is a test your knowledge question. Let's do it. As a non-exempt employee, Tim is paid a piece rate of $1 for each unit he produces. Last week, he worked an extra 5 hours on Saturday and produced 80 units, in addition to the 370 units he produced earlier in the week. What are Tim's earnings last week for producing 450 units in 45 hours? I'm going to allow a little bit more time than I normally do. By all means, go ahead and dissect this. Okay, we've got some responses coming in. I'm not saying if they're right or wrong. I just wanted to recognize that that's coming in. You guys take your time, hurry up. No, just kidding. I'll give you a hint. There's some irrelevant information in here. So if you're struggling, put yourself in this situation. If you were a non-exempt employee, if you are Tim, calculate your money. I'm going to, just in the interest of time, and I'm sorry if anybody feels rushed, I'm going to round this to quarter to the hour. So I think it's like another minute and a half, and then we'll take it up. Okay, we're going to take up the answer in just a matter of moments. I'm going to give everybody, we're going to squeeze in the last couple of seconds. Waiting to the turn of the minute. Okay, so I'm really sorry if I'm in your ears and in your thoughts and you're thinking, I'm almost there. I'm so sorry. Let's do this. Okay, so the answer will be announced as we walk through the math. I'm going to try to do this on the screen with the limited space that we have, but I really need to have all the details in front of us. So forgive me if it gets a little bit messy. I'll do my best to write very, very clearly. Let's just break down the question. We have a non-exempt employee. Perfect. Great. Hence, we need to calculate overtime if applicable. That's what this tells us. I don't need to see this again. I'm going to rule out that first part. Tim. Okay, great to know the person's name. I'm going to pretend I'm Tim so that I can understand. Tim is being paid $1 a piece. Okay, so in the bottom right-hand corner, I'm just going to mind map. I'm just going to capture my thoughts. I'm going to think $1 per unit produced. Great. I don't need to see this again. I'm done. Last week, Tim worked an extra 5 hours. Now stop. I don't know what this means. Extra 5 to what? Maybe he was only scheduled for 20. Maybe we can assume the question's expecting us to assume extra over and above 40 hours, but not necessarily. What if Tim was only scheduled, like I said, for 20 hours, 12 hours, 32 hours? This is irrelevant. Okay, let's read. So he worked an extra 5 hours on Saturday. Now, again, little bit of a trick. Assuming that Saturday is the weekend and the weekend is subject to overtime. Not necessarily. Bobby mentioned that his company measures, again, 7 consecutive 24-hour periods from a Sunday to a Saturday. Therefore, it's fair game. Irrelevant. I'm going to rule this out. None of this matters. Anyhow, having worked in this time on this day, blah, 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 produced 80 units in addition to the 370 he produced. 80 plus 70, you think to yourself, okay, that's 450. Great. So maybe you're thinking 450 units. Let's jot that down at the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to rule this out. I'm done with it. I don't need to revisit it. Last part. Yay! What are Tim's earnings last week for producing 450 units? Okay, I already established that. Don't need that. In 45 hours. So where we saw, oh, he worked an extra 5 hours, it looks like it was in extra of the scheduled 40. But now it got confirmed. So 45 hours. You've used up, in this case, every piece of information that matters to you, and we captured it at the bottom right-hand corner. Everything else is mumbo-jumbo details that are irrelevant. And some of it, as you can see, was repetitive. These are the 3 things we need. Boom, that's it. Okay, so now, just beside the title of this slide, I'm going to do the math. If Tim produced 450 units, it's piece rate clearly, otherwise we would have been told an hourly rate, and they're each valued at $1 per unit, then basically, technically, we owe Tim $450. Now, nobody weighed in with A, which is great. Too straightforward, right? Good. So we'll get rid of A. If anybody doesn't know how to calculate or doesn't give this the time or guesses in an exam, that is, they would go with A. But you're not in that place. Sweet. But we don't pay based on lump sum of just, output. FLSA won't let us. So we need to figure out what the hourly rate is. What we know is how much we owe Tim, and we have to take into consideration how much time it took him to earn it. So we take the $450 that really we're supposed to just pay him and divide it by the hours he invested to make this. Because you can think, well, had he worked less hours, maybe he would have made less money, and vice versa if he had worked more hours. So $450 divided by the 45 hours he invested to make that money is $10 an hour. That is his regular rate of pay. And that too, to that respect, will be subject to overtime. Let me just check in with you guys. So far, so good? Everybody comfortable? Everybody? Yeah? Okay, super. Let me just wait to see if there's any comment coming in that tells me otherwise. Okay. So now we'll just calculate overtime. So the straight time, I'm going to try not to do this too small. So we'll do $10 an hour times 40 straight hours. That's $400. And then $10 an hour times the overtime incentive, 1.5, which will turn out to be $15, times 5 overtime hours, comes out to $75 in overtime. And when you add 400 and 75 together, you will get the correct answer, which is $475. Thoughts, questions? How are you guys doing? Is that clear as mud? Is everybody comfortable? I do. So we have a classmate saying, do you have more of these? I absolutely do. And in fact, these are going to be posted to the Hive. So when I post the recording and the lesson recap and all that jazz, so under lesson 24, give me about like a day or so to do this, you'll have some more problems for you to tackle. Okay, fantastic. Take your screenshots if you need to, that is, of course. Take your notes. We're nearly finished this section, and in like, oh gosh, 20 minutes, let's see if we can, pump out the next 2 sections, which again, benefits, easy breezy, lemon squeezy, right? Okay, for all of you except me, because you're American and I'm not. Okay, okay, I'm gonna erase this. I'm going once, going twice, 3 times. Okay, perfect. Alrighty, so take a look over onto page 107, and we revisit basically, but we take a look at some effects that minimum wage may have on our pay. So you can revisit in your mind, maybe bringing back, the wage curve and those job bands or the pay grades, whatever you want to call it. But we also spoke, I think it was just recently, in fact, oops, sorry, my bad. We also spoke recently about, economic impacts and how that really sometimes pushes, if you will, wages and causes a compression and so forth and so forth. So we're just seeing this happen again. When minimum wage goes up such that it pushes a former earning to a new earning, and that's what you see here in the far left area, we have to push those wages. Let me give you an example. Here in Ontario, I think I mentioned this to you guys, forgive me if I'm being repetitive. Here in Ontario, we had minimum wage, I think it was at, like $12 or $13. Let's say 12 to make it very dramatic. People who are at the bottom, if I may, they were making minimum wage, $12 an hour. I think it's a lot of money for a 14-year-old, but anyways. Well, the Ontario government, and you guys may have experienced this as well in your state, but they just bumped up minimum wage, like they ripped off a Band-Aid to $15 an hour. So everybody and anybody in this lighter shaded area who wasn't making $15 an hour, boom, they just immediately got bumped. The question though is that has a trickle effect to everybody else who is earning already $15 and above, because we want to maintain those variances between the job bands. So we have to consider, again, the direct and indirect effects on things such as minimum wage and maintaining, again, those equitable pay differences that we discussed in our last class. So a little bit of a visual that just kind of revisits this. As well, we have the Equal Pay Act and where there are permissible differences. This is enforced by the EEOC. I'm going to take a look at the comment that's coming in. Hold on tight. Equal Pay Act basically says we're going to be paying everybody equally, regardless of your gender in particular. And we know that Hollywood is definitely combating this. In fact, I think a lot of different industries are, but that's the first thing that came to mind. And so you can see here that there are some exemptions, or exceptions, or BFOQ, bring back that language, to the Equal Pay Act. There are some bona fide, justifiable, legally sound reasons why perhaps everybody's not going to be paid equally, men versus women or persons of certain ages. Take, for example, when wages or salaries are based on length of service, which we often see in unionized environments, but certainly not limited to. where there's merit pay increases, where also we're going to see somebody who's been with an organization for a longer period of time, they got more merit increases. Another exception would be if it's based on production. Again, those individual incentives. And if there is any other differentiating factor that is not based particularly, on the gender, but perhaps on other things, such as you are a full-time permanent employee. And I don't want to imply anything by using those words, but you are a regular employee as opposed to perhaps a seasonal employee. Maybe some people got a sign-on bonus or incentive or premium. Maybe the economy shifted. Those are all acceptable. Now, one thing to keep in mind, actually, here we're talking about the Equal Pay Act, but I would be silly to talk about this and not bring up the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, because that's only 10 years young. What's key difference between the Equal Pay Act and the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act is the back pay. So it's a very interesting precedent-setting case. I think I'll also post that for you guys in case you just kind of, for fun, want to read up in case you're not familiar or you want to polish up. But Lilly Ledbetter, and I think she was working for a tire company, if I'm not mistaken, she basically, sued her employer under Equal Pay Act. And so she won. She went to all powers that be, the court system. She won, but she said, hold on, you've been wronging me for umpteen years. I want back pay. Hence, President Obama at the time signed the Fair Pay Act. Anyhow, we also, here's a key buzzword, have a comparable worth controversy. There is the stigma, and I'm using air quotes, that there are women's jobs, there are men's jobs, and they are paid more or less based on, again, those air quote categories. Okay, we have a comment that has been waiting for me, so thanks so much. Bank of America is starting their minimum wage at $20 an hour. Okay, so that's, I guess, a company-imposed minimum wage. Yeah, I need a job there, that's for sure. Okay, fantastic. Alrighty, independent contractors, as we wrap up this section. Has anybody ever been audited because you're an independent contractor? IRS ever come after you and be like, prove that you're independent? Or is this just a convenient categorization because of the way that you want to submit your taxes? Okay, you don't have to tell me if you don't want, or of course you can. I'll go first. I have. It was not fun. That was not a fun audit. In any event, there is a 20-factor test, and you see it summarized towards the tail end of this section, starting on page 114, where basically the IRS, they're not just going to let anybody categorize themselves however they really find it most convenient for them, because we're really ripping off the government from taxes. So they're going to be taking a look at things such as who controls the work, do you get performance appraisals, who controls the hours, any type of expenditures, who absorbs them, who really as well, I guess, creates, if I may, the projects or the delegation. Is there any type of span of control and so forth? Let's see, comment is coming in. Employee Development Department did a company audit. Oh, torture. So let's wrap up this section. The Equal Pay Act prohibits employers from what? Paying higher wages or salaries based on length of service, paying employees more or less based on quantity or quality of production rather than on a set rate per hour worked, paying members of one sex more than members of the opposite sex for doing equal work, or paying different amounts to employees based on geographical differences. Sorry, excuse me for having gone radio silent. I just wanted to make a note to myself. Okay, look at all these responses coming in. Let me just kind of review everything in the chat. So much came in. I had my head down for 2 seconds. This is awesome. We are now near the turn of the hour. Don't want to keep you on too long. You must be exhausted. It's the end of the week. Okay. I'm going to take the smart risk. I hope I'm not getting in your ears or in your minds and interrupting your thinking. Going once, going twice, 3 times. C is correct. Amazing. Everybody weighed in with C. You know what I'll say? No explanation needed, I guess. Congratulations. This section is complete. Page 117, you have 7 questions to test your knowledge. We talk about employee benefit programs. We're going to start off talking about those that are mandatory And then we'll talk as well about those that are elective, and I would say pretty much a norm that we tend to expect, but certainly are not mandated. Okay, so a little bit of an introductory page. As you see on page 119, we start talking about the required benefits. So the next couple of slides that we're going to speak to will be about Social Security. Does not apply to state and local government employees. They have their own plans. We'll also see the Old Age Survivors and Disability Insurance Act being spoken about. We're going to talk about workers' compensation and unemployment compensation. So with no further ado, let's do this. And more often than not, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, in the past I've had classmates tell me, wow, this was just a nice kind of review. It's just nice to know what I'm expected to know, but people have, felt pretty comfortable, which has allowed me to speed up. So again, if I'm making the wrong assumption, let me know. Otherwise, full speed ahead. So Social Security benefits. These benefits actually come from taxes that are collected under the Federal Insurance Contributions Act. Both employees and employers are going to contribute to this tax. We have a couple of different types of categories. First of all, we have here, let me just pull out my highlighter. We have old age or disability benefits for workers who retire. I believe it is currently 66 years of age. Looks like this is going to be pushed to 67 years in the near future. Or should somebody, God forbid, become severely disabled. The definition of severely disabled will be a severe physical or mental disability that has been diagnosed and signed off by a medical practitioner for at least 12 months. In this case, one would receive monthly payout, which is determined by their work credits and their average earnings. Second, we see that there may be benefits for dependents of those that are retired, God forbid disabled, or should they pass. Again, the money is determined by work credits and average earnings. There may be lump sum death benefits, and then of course, Medicare. Really targeting, or I should say protecting those 65 years and older from high medical costs. Is available to those who may be younger than 65 if they are, again, diagnosed disabled for 24 or more consecutive months, or if they are a dependent and they need dialysis or a kidney transplant. Under Medicare, there's Plan A, hospital insurance, inpatient care. There's Plan B, physician services, outpatient services, in other words. And there is Part D, the prescription drugs that also have catastrophic coverage kinds of protections. Moving right along, we speak here now about workers' compensation. We're going to take a look at accidents and injuries, and workers' compensation will come up again in the next unit. But workers' compensation is really all about, helping people financially when there is an injury or an accident at work. And it's really that, okay, this happens, and it is a shared responsibility between both the employer and the employee. The premise is liability without fault. So there's three different types of benefits, as you can see on our slide. Let me pull out my highlighter. There are, this language breaks my heart. There's death benefits. You have a one-time lump sum. There's medical expenses. Some states will have limitations, but since we're not getting into anything state-specific, I'll leave it at that. And then there's wage replacement. It could be 50 to 70% of the average weekly wages. Now, the experience rating, there's another key buzzword for us today, is based on the number of people who are drawing on workers' compensation. So of course, for so many reasons, companies really don't want to have a lot of workers' comp claims going in. And then lastly, as we make our way over to the bottom of page 124, we have unemployment insurance, providing people some financial assistance in a situation where they are no longer working. So the Federal Unemployment Tax Act regulates taxes, on the employer. It's part of now the Internal Revenue Code. There's so many moving parts to this, but what the exams would expect us to know is employers with as few as one employee, so arguably I'm going to say all employers, where they have that one employee who's been working for as few as 20 weeks and are earning $1,500 per quarter, is going to be susceptible to this. The employer's got to pay. They're paying a lot. We are all contributing to unemployment because should anybody be in a situation to need to cash in, the money basically has to be banked. So we see the employer is paying 6.2% of payroll on the first $7,000. And as well, unemployment compensation costs, not only do they have to be absorbed by the employer, it's also going to depend on the number of employees drawing on these funds. Again, the experience rating kicks in. Hey, that was short and sweet. So let's check in with your knowledge. Worker compensation laws have tried to what? Make it easier for injured employees to sue an employer, increase the money injured workers receive when they sue their employer, eliminate the need for lawsuits by providing compensation regardless of fault, or compensate unemployed workers who are out of work through no fault of their own. What have the laws tried to do? That's the operative word here. Not what does worker compensation provide, what do the laws work to accomplish? We're going to rule out A. We're going to rule out B. I'm just reacting to how you guys have responded. I can't quite keep track, but I'm suspecting, I think I saw a couple people change their answers. This is an interestingly tricky one, yet it is simple. Worker compensation laws. They're not in place to provide us protections. I mean, they are, but that's not what the question is saying. The question is asking us, the laws are in place because they're trying to what? Okay, so a lot of people, I think now are, seeing, I guess, what the question wants to know from you, which is C. The law is in place to eliminate lawsuits. Now, what the law does for us is it gives us, of course, financial assistance, so the compensation. Those are the protections. Okay, fantastic. Let's talk about some electives, and it might be quite the norm. I hope everybody is blessed to receive pension plans, but it's certainly not mandatory. So we have two different types of pension plans that we see employers, make available for us or to us or with us or what have you. We have first and foremost defined benefit pension plan. Say that 5 times fast. This is company funded only. We see that this is typically average earnings times years of service, and then times another, let's say like 1 to 3%. We also have defined contribution pension plan. This is where we have a separate account for each participant, and the money that is put into each of these individual accounts will come from a combination of the employer and the employee. Best of my knowledge, at least to my experience amongst my conversations, this tends to be the more popular of the two. We also know this to be our 401k. Employees can invest, they maximize to their greatest ability. There's also as well the hybrid plan, excuse my chicken scratch. The hybrid plan is also known as the cash balance plan. It's a combination of both benefit pension and contribution pension plans. We see the individual accounts, which is great. They are portable, equally great. They're insured by the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corp. Interest rates, however, are set by the employer. They're generous, we're not complaining. But in this case, the employer is deciding how the funds are invested, which some might not love so much. Let's see, do you have to contribute more for that one? Well, it's really up to that employer, sounds like. So maybe, maybe not. We take a look at some individual savings plans. And there is a fantastic list. It's all very, very well explained and overwhelming, if you ask me, in the book. And know that the IRS is always going to be qualifying everything. The more popular, truthfully, of the two, so let me just put some focus here, would be on the 401k. I'm sure you're probably thinking, I know this, I don't need to know that. And of course, IRAs, which too, historically people have told me, oh, yay, good. I'm a lucky beneficiary, so this is easy breezy lemon squeezy. What I would advise, if you do feel super, super comfortable with these, is know some of those caps or those limits. So, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm always double checking my knowledge. But when it comes to 401k, the individual contribution limit for this year, and I think that's what you would be tested on, but again, 2020 is around the corner, but an individual, not combined, limit is $19,000 a year. There is the catch-up of $6,000. Okay, and there's, of course, a highly compensated employee contribution limit as well at 6%, but that's just really getting to be nitty-gritty. The combined contribution between employee and employer is the lesser of 100% of one's salary, or $56,000 for the year. That's what I suggest you be familiar with. Again, probably can't hurt to be polished up in 2020 if you are testing. I would say in February, maybe even January. Now know that there are, just like in IRAs, there is a penalty should anybody withdraw their pensions early. So it's really susceptible to 401k and IRA, and likely others too. If you are 59 and a half years young, then you will be subject to a penalty for taking your money out early. Okay, so as early as 59 and a half. Okay, are we doing okay for time? I think so. So we have the Pension Protection Act. The Pension Protection Act is going to provide the following. It requires employers, to send notices in a timely fashion, I want to say this about 30 days, to employees if there's going to be any change. If they have the rights to elect any type of different investments, they have to be given that 30 days notice. And as well, the Act also is requiring employers to create any new plans if required, such as a DBK. But the employers always have to send notices. I think that's kind of like really, really going above and beyond and pushing it. Okay, let's check in with you. I'm just yapping. What? So there's a fill in the blank. You might see this kind of a fill in the blank in an HRCI exam, not a SHRM. Not likely, I should say. But fill in the blank for HRCI goers might also just be completely like blank. You might not have options. So type of pension plan requires a separate account for each participant, and typically both the employer and employee will contribute jointly to that pension fund. Is it a defined benefit? Is it a trusted benefit? Is it a defined contribution, or is it a deferred contribution? Okay, great. Yes, Tess, yeah, and you will predominantly have that, yes. Oh, I misread your comment. Hold on tight, 1 second. Let me give that to TLC it deserves. Alrighty, guys, so forgive me. In the interest of time, going once, going twice, 3 times, C is correct. Amazing, perfect. Let's see, I have a question saying, for HRCI, we might not have multiple choice. Just so looking for clarity, no. I do not think that that will be the case at all. As I have been told by many, including HRCI representatives, you will predominantly have multiple choice. You will have a very small variety of what they call alternate style questions. The alternate style questions may be fill in the blank, but you likely won't have options of words to choose from. So it's literally just like completely open, like to tapping into your mind. You may also have multiple responses. So for example, choose 3 of the following 8. You might also see matching and pairing and dragging and dropping. And I'm pretty guaranteeing you're going to have scenario-based questions. Now, they're not short answer. They're going to be multiple choice, but you have a lengthy scenario, just like what SHRM does. If you want to best kind of see what all these different alternate style questions are, I would suggest revisit that learning contract. So in other words, that guide for successful exam prep that's over on the HRCP website, because they've done a really good job, I think, at putting a couple of these like sample questions out there. A little bit is. Let's see, getting a question. I don't know why it is defined. Can you explain? So you want to know why it's called defined contribution? It's because while both parties, being employer and employee, is contributing, the stipulations around those contributions, be it the interest rates, be it limits, are defined. And usually it's going to be by the employer who's actually defining any of those limits or stipulations. So in one case, when it's defined benefit, the employer is defining, this is the benefit you're going to get, this is what we're investing for you, this is when you can take it out, that's it. So they're defining all the rules basically. But when it's defined contribution, again, all of those rules are being already preset, i.e. defined, but both parties, employer and employee, are contributing. Yeah, perfect. Okay, I know we're a minute over. If you don't mind, I at least want to finish this section. So I have just another couple of slides. Even if we don't do the next section, and that's okay, I'll weigh in with you. Hang in there, please. I'm sorry. I know that some kids are waiting for mom or dad to give them bath, or some of you are just thinking, I'm so tired. I got a pizza waiting for me. I want to go to sleep. Okay, health and accident insurance. So this brings us over to page 132. We are getting closer. These are optional benefits. Again, might become a norm, but certainly it is not mandated. Sure, the prevailing or the norm that companies offer kind of make it what we take for granted as, you know, a right, but it is not. However, this is a crucial piece of compensation. So here's one thing to keep in mind as well. The PPACA mandates, you know this, that employers with 50 or more employees are provided either affordable healthcare insurance options, or they have to pay a penalty, and we see this fall under this category as well. We also want to see income replacement in the event, for example, of long-term disability, short-term disability, and this is going to be over and above any type of death benefit that may be provided under Social Security. We also see that there's severance, supplemental unemployment, for example. Let's take a look at supplemental unemployment. This actually provides financial security to union members. So that's a little bit, if I may, of, I guess, an anomaly. Okay, and while we're not going to talk about unions until Unit 5, know that if you're not unionized, you aren't eligible for this. The funds that basically are being banked for this benefit actually come from the union dues. So just a little FYI. The major advantage of providing group life insurance for employees, rather than having them purchase their own, is what? Group coverage has lower premium rates. Individual coverage would involve a large number of different insurance companies. Individual coverage would provide widely different amounts of coverage for different employees, but group coverage includes minorities and females. Okay. Okay. Perfect. The correct answer, drum roll, is A. Fantastic. Okay. Bravo, bravo, bravo. You have finished this section. Amazing. Lots of content. It's a read, but it's, I don't want to take anything for granted, but I'm going to say I think it's like, it's regular everyday practice, so dare I call it common knowledge? I don't know. Anyways, I don't want to say that in a condescending way. Page 146, you see that we finished the section 7 questions to test your knowledge. I have, okay, dare I poll you, because I don't want to make anybody unhappy. I have 1, 2, 3 slides, including a knowledge check question, and then we can reach our goal. You guys okay to stick with me for about 7 minutes? And then that means on Monday, we will finish this unit. Anybody a hard no? Okay, let's do it. I don't see that hard no coming in, so I'm going to take the smart risk. I'm really sorry if I'm inconveniencing anybody. Thank you, guys. Okay, we talked about the benefits. Now let's talk about basically like funding them and the various different kinds of benefits. You guys know this. You're recipients of this. That's what makes this so easy. All we're going to do is two things. Hence, I've only got 3 slides. We're going to take a look at the 5 different healthcare options where you have cost and you have options, and having options is costly. And then how do we basically fund all of this? So while there's a really good synopsis on page 147, what I'm really going to be speaking to, you see on page 148. Here's the spectrum where you have more choice, which you see on the left. Choice has a price. And as we will make our way over towards the right, we sacrifice some choice for cost containment. So let's just take a look at what those are. And along the way, please, also plug yourself in really what kind of healthcare option you have exercised or you have right now. So let me just pull out my drawing pen here. Okay, so first and foremost, we have fee for service. As I like to call it, the pay as you go. You get to choose your healthcare provider. They're going to charge you for the services rendered. This is the most costly of the 5. Then we have the PPO. From what I understand, most organizations, so most workers, if I can generalize, get to enjoy this. It is a type of fee for service. However, it's the Costco version. That's what I like to call it. So there's a volume discount. Patients will be given a healthy list of preferred doctors, but you get to choose within that list. Then you have the POS, smack in the middle of choice and cost containment. Also, as I understand it, very, very popular. You're going to have a primary care physician. You're also going to have a gatekeeper who is monitoring all the services and monitoring all the costs. HMO. There's individual practice associations, so your IPAs, your group model plans, and your staff model plans. Less choices, however, more cost efficient. And then group health cooperatives, a type of HMO. Members are going to pay a fixed monthly fee, and they're going to get what they get, and they're not going to get upset. That's the kind of approach here we have of the group health cooperatives. So again, plug yourself to see, okay, which one am I enjoying? Let's take a look now at how it is all funded. So again, I'm sure you guys are all too familiar with this. It might be bringing back some traumatic experiences. Hopefully not. I was just over-exaggerating when it came to, making all these selections and doing what is best for you and or any dependents. So there's a variety of different ways to pay for all the medical expenses, employers and employees. There is the cafeteria style approach, the flexible benefit plan. Imagine going down the cafeteria line with a tray, and you're basically taking whatever you want. You want the mashed potatoes, you want the Jell-O, whatever the case is. All employees get to choose their benefits through the use of benefit credits. Employees can choose a top tier. It covers a high % of medical costs with a low deductible. They can do the exact opposite, go for a low tier, covers a low % of medical costs, a high deductible, or there's a happy medium right in the middle. Thing is though, everybody's paying for everybody's decisions. That's the only thing here. It's kind of like car insurance. All of our premiums go up when the company has had to maybe deal with a lot of accidents because their costs went up. Then we have the FSA, your flexible spending arrangements. Participants will pay for healthcare and dependent care expenses through pre-tax earnings. We didn't see this years past, but now there is a rollover amount of $500, which is good. So it's not use it or lose it. The health reimbursement arrangements, so your HRA, funded by the employer. Here we have, of course, those funds, again, that are used to reimburse out-of-pocket medical expenses. Any unused portions can be carried over to the next period. Good, nothing's wasted. The oh so popular HSA, which allows employees, to contribute pre-tax earnings to save for healthcare costs. So companies have the option to match all or part of the employee's contribution. We like those employers. And the employees as well can invest the monies that they set aside into the HSA into a diverse portfolio, so stocks or bonds or mutual funds. They can make money on their money. However, they have to be covered under the high deductible health plan. And then last but not least, the private health exchange. So the marketplace, in other words, regulated by the PPACA or Obamacare. I think that's used interchangeably. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Comment has come in. If you don't mind, I am going to take a look at that as I am presenting to you this last and final question. I told you 7 minutes. The concern regarding adverse selection, that's the operative, adverse selection, with respect to flexible benefit program is what? Employees will select unnecessary benefits. Only high-risk employees will participate in expensive benefits, which causes premiums to increase. Employees will fail to enroll in health insurance plans and prefer to receive cash, or employees will prefer time off rather than health coverage. Oh, Ashley, that does not sound fun. Sorry, it's like nails on the blackboard to me. A concern about adverse selection when it comes to the cafeteria style. Okay. You guys are rocking it, killing it, whatever the nice terminology is. So for anybody who's thinking, I gotta go, Jen, come on, wrap this up. We met our goal, and thank you very much for your patience. We are going to complete the unit on Monday. So please, that would be pages 157 through to 201. And then we put this baby to bed and we move on to the last and final. Oh my gosh, this is really happening. Okay, going once, going twice. B is correct. Blame it on people like me. I've got braces on 3 faces. You did it. So congratulations, guys. We have now completed our goal for today and completed this section. Page 156, you have 2 questions to test your knowledge. Very, very tall order. Yes, again, page 157 to the end, which will be page 201. So we are technically one lesson behind my new revised syllabus that I had put out there in October. We will catch up. How or when? To be determined. Still, I have to play with that. But we've been in a worser, situation. Not to worry, guys. But yes, for Monday, please, we're finishing Unit 1. Unit 4. So please, if you have time this weekend and you feel like you are equipped, you can go and rock out your Unit 4 practice test. If not, then please get ready next week and next weekend to certainly be ready to do that, because you will definitely be done by then. My pleasure. You too. Have a good weekend. Let's take a look. Questions coming in. For the reviews, once we finish everything, do you have a set review, or do we have the chance to send you some information we would like to go over? Oh yeah, I do have a set review. However, I will happily go over anything that you need. And we can actually approach this a couple of different ways. I can schedule it into the review. I can as well, if it's convenient for you, I can make it a topic for a Tuesday night review, the Coach's Corner. So if you're not able to attend Tuesday nights, then yeah, you let me know what you need. But yes, please, that would be great. Oh, that's amazing. Wow. Good for you. You're ahead of the curve. Okay, super, guys. I see quite a few people rushed out. It's not a good sign, huh? Oh no, what have I done? Alrighty, guys. Okay, well, the next lesson, again, will be a little bit heavy in terms of laws and topics, but hopefully you will enjoy it. So let's see. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. You have amazing memory. Yeah, and I saw that really cool video you sent me. Thank you. Thank you. I didn't even know. So what that means is I need to go and ask for a raise. Thank you. Okay, so we have a classmate saying, let's go over adverse impact a little bit more. Sure. So you know what I'm thinking? I'd like to do that on its own. Do you have any preferred days of the week or times of the day. I'm wondering if I do that as like a solo. Okay, I can do that. Because I think I had 3 reviews scheduled. Maybe I can add another one. So we'll do week 1 of December. This will be an add-on. Okay, so question for you as well. Oh yeah, I'm not doing that now. I'm too exhausted. No, I'm just kidding. Question for you. Sorry to put you under the microscope. When you say adverse impact, do you mean the 4/5 mathematical application, or do you mean like it conceptually and by theory, or do you mean both? Yes, I had you at math, right? Okay, done. Let me just work this in. Are you okay if I do this the first week of December somehow, some way, maybe even over the course of the weekend? Or do you have a little bit of a tighter deadline? Oh, okay. So I will aim for the 9th or the 10th, if that's okay. Let me just take a look at, I'd say my availability. You can let me know yours, and or everybody else can feel welcome to weigh in, and we'll find a common time. Okay, my absolute pleasure. Okay, consider it done. Alrighty, guys, and on that note, I have a child to go and pick up, so forgive me. I totally forgot. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, goodness. It's the joys of being a personal chauffeur. Guys, have yourselves a fantastic rest of the week. Have a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Bye, everybody.